Call to order for the Town of St. John Redevelopment Commission meeting for February 24th, 2026. We have roll call, please. Beth?
Gerald Swetz.
Present.
Christian Jorgensen.
Present.
Michael Bovat.
Here.
Wayne Pondinas.
Present.
Ann Oster.
Present.
Bill Manasopoulos. Here. Joe Svetnoff.
Here.
And Beth Hernandez, present.
Thank you, Beth. This time we have public comment. Item 3 on the agenda. I have a Jeff. If you could come forward. And if you please could state your name and your address, please.
My name is Jeff Swearingen. I live at 10374 Bryan Place. I live on the detention pond in the East Gate. I also have a muskrat problem in my backyard because of this detention pond. I know of at least one neighbor 5 houses down who also has a muskrat den in their backyard right now. Since I moved into the East Gates of East St. John in May 2024, this detention pond has held water. The town also owns part of this pond because of wall number 8. Now, I talked to St. John Animal Control about muskrats. They said they don't handle them, and they sent me to Indiana Department of Natural Resources. I talked to Indiana Department of Natural Resources, and they said, we don't handle them, you need to get a trapper. So I contacted a trapper, and the trapper said, we can remove the muskrats, but they're gonna come right back because the pond is so big and it doesn't drain. Now, I have a neighbor who spoke to the town manager back in September who said that the pond was slowly draining because of a buildup of the outfall and that code enforcement was going to take necessary steps to address these issues. I talked to the HOA manager of the Eastgate in February, and she said the HOA had been unable to find anyone who was willing to remove the muskrats, and that D.R. Horton, the developer, was not interested in doing anything to fix the pond drainage. The HOA is currently controlled by the developer until indefinite time, whenever they sell enough lots. So my question is to the town, will you do anything to make the developer bring the detention pond up to code and fix drainage issues so I can hopefully get the muskrats out of my backyard?
Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to make it known that the Gates Coalition has retained legal,
Counsel.
a lawyer, so any communication should be through their lawyer and the town attorney.
Joe, what do we do about muskrats?
Right now, until I hear from your lawyer, I'm going to defer on that.
Okay, I wasn't.
We'll try to figure out what we can do.
I would appreciate that because I've got a den, and there's some other neighbors who have a den, and it's becoming a public health hazard at this point.
Okay.
For sure.
Town manager will get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Levester, hope I got that right. Levester Denham?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Levester Denham. I live at 10364 Bryan Place. I am also a just neighbor. The problem with the pond is not just the muskrats. The problem is the pond does not drain. It should be drained after each rain within 48 hours. It doesn't. It holds water, and the water doesn't move. It sits stagnant. So not only do we have muskrats, which go out foraging in the winter because you can see the tracks leading from the pond and start to head out into the neighborhood, which means everybody else is going to pick it up. But in the summer, you have problems with mosquitoes. It is a breeding ground for mosquitoes as well. Now, I don't know how that affects the well out there, if that water will end up in the well water. I don't know anything about that. I'm not an engineering person. But I do know the muskrats and the mosquitoes alone are going to be a problem for the entire area. All we need is for that pond to drain like it's supposed to drain. We have, drone videos where you can actually see each one of the drains, and you can see the water sitting in the pond, the whole pond, and it's lower than the drain. So it will only go out of the drains when it gets up to a higher level than it should, but it never goes dry. I've been there since 2024, and it has never been dry. The water just sits there. And like I said, it's not the problem just with the muskrats. It's the problem with muskrats, mosquitoes, and stagnant water that sits in there. All we need is for the pond to drain. That's it.
Is there an HOA that covers it?
It's an HOA who's responsible for maintaining it. But if the town doesn't enforce the code, the HOA is not going to do anything either. They're going to blame it on the developer. And the developer is going to say, no, that's a HOA problem. But if it hasn't drained from the beginning, that means it wasn't put there properly.
I understand. Properly, have you guys petitioned the HOA?
We've all put in, well, the people that I know have put in requests, but still, even when you call them or send anything to them, they say, that's not our problem. They do the minor maintenance that they do. They're not going to do any engineering. They still do the grass all around it. They keep that cut. I don't think there's any trash just floating in there. But as far as getting it fixed, they say they have nothing to do with that.
If there is an HOA involved, I don't know.
You may want to talk to Ashley Abernathy about this. She's
I was
well-informed as well, so.
I was going to ask you, yep, I think that's where to go.
Yeah, well, their bandage
Speak to
has
Mr.
been.
Svetnoff before you leave,
Okay,
and I think he can direct you correctly.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else for public comment?
Is it detention?
Didn't have anyone else for the redevelopment commission? At this time, we're going to move to item 4, presentation, a comprehensive TIF report by Baker Tilly. Billy, could you comment on that?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Tonight, Andy Mauser will be presenting some increment reports on Area 1 to our residential development area, Development Area 3, and Development Area 4.
Sure.
Thank you, Billy, and good evening, Commission members. You should all have received a bound copy of our TIF report. I will try to be respectful of your time and go through this quickly here tonight, but we're certainly glad to answer questions as you've had some additional time to digest this report going forward. But this is something we've been working on for the last couple of years, really going back to the start of the town's TIF areas, all the way back to 1997. So this report encompasses your existing EDA 1, existing EDA 2, the Commons residential TIF area, and then the more recently created EDAs 3 and 4. And really this report, I would say, is designed to meet a couple purposes. One, there is an annual requirement that was put into place probably 3 or 4 years ago now to hold a public meeting and go through the budget, long-term plan, and impact of your TIF areas. So this report is designed to, help meet that requirement. But more so, I think this is designed to be a good reference document and tool for the town as you start to consider future projects and where TIF can potentially help with those projects. A lot of your TIF areas, as you're probably aware, EDA 1 especially dates all the way back to 1997. And there were, I think, 2 components that were set up as the North and South TIF in 1997, and many different components that have been consolidated, amended, expanded since then. So this report goes through not only where your TIF areas are now, but where we expect them to be in the future. And especially within EDA 1 over the next couple of decades, you're going to start to see pieces of the area expire, but those expirations will occur at different times. And so this report projects out, again, not only where your areas are now, but where they're going to be, as we enter the 2030s and 2040s, and how TIF can continue to be a tool for projects. So I'll maybe just show you kind of what's in a couple of the sections, maybe focus on EDA 1 briefly, and then at the very end of the report, pages 39 and 40, I think are the most important pages in the entire report. Really pulls together what you have available from all your existing TIF areas that is not already pledged to debt obligations. So this would be TIF that is truly available for other projects and initiatives. As you're probably aware, in recent years, TIF has become more and more flexible. So TIF can be used for capital expenditures in the TIF areas, as it always has been. But now there's additional flexibility to use TIF for quality of life type projects, public safety type improvements, and operating costs. So this report, I think, gives you an idea of what could be there available for some of those expenses. So I guess maybe before I walk through just a few of the pages, any questions on the report itself or kind of where things are at?
No, I think I'm good, but
Okay.
again, this is staying in compliance with the state statutes is what's required by law.
Correct.
Okay.
Staying in compliance, and then also, as I said, trying to be, I think, a long-term planning document for how TIF can be a resource on some of your long-term project planning. So,
And hate to keep you here and do all this. It might become more pertinent once we get to our next agenda.
sure.
And then, if you don't mind sticking around,
Yeah.
answering questions for that, probably even more helpful than even now.
Absolutely. No, glad to stay through the council meeting as well tonight, so. But as you'll see on the first page of the report, for each of your TIF areas, this is for EDA 1. We do provide the background on the history of when your TIF areas were created and then when each of those components will expire. As I mentioned, your EDA 1, while it is officially now one economic development area, within that economic development area, it has many different allocation areas. The original 1997 piece will actually expire in 2028, where the most recent component, you've had amendments and expansions that we outline here in 1998, 2004, 2007, 2008, and 2014. That most recent component, has a 30-year lifespan that was set up in 2014, so it will actually expire in 2044. So between 2028 and 2044, EDA 1 will start to expire, but that expiration will be very gradual. On page 2, for each of the TIF areas, we do outline outstanding bonds. So we've got your 2018 bonds. These are the only TIF obligation that is backed by the town. We have 5 other bond obligations in this report, including the Air Alchemist bonds for the Jewel Osco project. And those are all developer-backed or developer-purchased obligations. So the risk of the TIF performance all falls completely on the developer. There's no additional risk to the town on any of those obligations. And again, those would be the Air Alchemist bonds, the 2023 Commons bonds, the Orchard Gate Sterling Gate project, and then Unit 17B as well. So we do include each of those projects in the report. We try to focus on TIF that is available kind of on top of those bond payments, and then also focusing again on your TIF areas and what's actually available that's not pledged to debt obligations. So then on page 3 for each area, we do have just a future tax increment, debt repayment, administration of the area section. That's just designed to give you some idea of kind of where each TIF area is currently. And then if I maybe just flip briefly to page 5 of the report. This gives you an idea of how your TIF areas are changing year over year. So for the main portion of your EDA 1, you currently capture about $60 million of assessed value, which brings in 2025, brought in right around $986,000 of TIF. In 2026, you had quite a bit of growth in TIF 1, so that number has grown all the way to about $74 million of assessed value, which generates about $1,167,000. So your TIF areas continue to grow and are very healthy. And then as we project this out forward, we do show where, again, portions of the area will start to expire and TIF will decrease in the future. But at the same time, as TIF areas expire, there will be assessed value that will be returned to the tax base in the future. So this report shows, almost $46 million that will be returned to the tax base in 2029. Just for reference, with the town total tax base of about $2.4 billion, that represents about 2% of your existing tax base that will be added to the tax base in 2029 from the expiration of the TIF areas. So again, TIF areas are doing what they're supposed to do, building that assessed value, and then that assessed value, here in just the next 2 to 3 year period, will start to return to the tax base. And then for each area, we do kind of outline all the projections for that area. We have all your debt obligations. Page 9, for example, shows your 2018 bonds. You'll see payments on those. And as part of this process, we do look through any refunding opportunities. So if there's a chance to refinance existing debt into lower interest rates, that's something we look at. I think with where rates are now, the 4% you've got on your 2018 bonds is very competitive with where the market's at currently. So, and then maybe to flip, again, towards the end, I think the last couple pages in the report, pages 39 and 40, are really the most important. So I'll turn to page 39 first. And this represents a comparison schedule of what your TIF areas brought in 2025, what we expect them to bring in 2026, and then what we expect as far as future increases or decreases in each TIF area. You'll see in 2025, you brought in between TIF 1, between the 5% you kept from the Air Alchemist project, from the Family Express allocation area, from the various components of EDA 2, from the 40% that was retained by the Redevelopment Commission on the Commons project, and from 3, altogether you brought in about $1.1 million in 2025, and for 2026 you should bring in about 1.6, almost 1.7 million. The only debt payable from your TIF, as I mentioned, outside of the developer deals, is the 2018 bonds. Annual payments on those are right around $580,000. So you've got quite a bit of TIF left over for other uses. And then really, as you look at that far right column on that page, across the next 25 years, even without any growth within your TIF areas, we would expect you to bring in about $10.9 million in surplus above any debt commitments that would be available for, again, any projects. It could be public safety improvements, quality of life improvements, infrastructure needs, any eligible uses of TIF. And then to take that one step further, as many of your TIF areas do have development that is underway that we expect will, be assessed and hit here in the next few years. Page 40 of the analysis represents what I would say is a higher end upside scenario. If the development within, EDA 3, for example, build out occurs as expected, you can see total TIF in this scenario, net of your debt service payments would be closer to about $29.8 million. So very healthy TIF, again, across the next 25-year period that would be available for any eligible uses.
That's a low estimate, that you're not trying to inflate it, but that's what we should get with normal development.
Correct.
We might get more than that.
Correct. I would say that page 39 is probably the most conservative. That does not include any new development at all. Page 40 does include what we know is expected for EDA 3. If EDA 3 does build out as expected, we would estimate again somewhere around the 29.8 million. But if you've got additional growth that will occur, additional retail in TIF 1, for example, is the result of the growth within the town, that would certainly boost things even above what we've shown here on page 40. So I think the TIF is in very, very healthy condition, and at the same time should be a great resource for addressing projects and needs in the future.
So my question, looking on page 39, is that in EDA 1, we're not bringing in enough money to pay off the debt that we borrowed for EDA 1. Why would that happen? Am I correct in assuming that?
There are a couple years, so, and a lot of EDA 1 and the 2018 bonds does predate our involvement with the town.
Right. Well, I understand that. I'm just wondering why we don't have sufficient funds to cover those.
So I think there are some expirations that will occur, as I mentioned, from 2028 to 2029. So the TIF area, EDA 1 will be the first area to drop off. Those 2018 bonds do have payments through 2030. So I think part of this document, was wanting to make sure that any future debt service needs are covered. So I think it will be important over the next 3 to 4 year period. As you'll see in TIF 1, you've got quite a bit of surplus above your debt payments. It will be important just to build up some of that surplus to make sure that those 2 years are covered.
Okay, thank you.
Still in very good condition.
And Andy, on TIF 1 there,
Sure.
the increase we've seen, have we seen it because of the pruning of those down draws and those properties that were on there for quite a while that were dragging it down?
Yeah, I think it's been a combination of things. Probably some of the pruning that was done to the TIF area. I think you've had additional development and growth, new construction within the TIF area, and then just continuing to see property values within the TIF area rise as well. So probably a combination of things. Like I said, certainly glad to answer questions in the coming weeks as you have a chance to digest this. But really, I think this will be a good planning document, for the town and for us as well as additional opportunities come up in the future.
No, well done.
So I do have one more question, I'm sorry. Still looking back on page 39 and on EDA 1. So the first column is the St. John Corp. Then we still have to add the other columns to give the total income for that EDA 1?
Correct. EDA 1 at this point currently includes,
So if we add the Ariel Kim and Family Express, then we're actually closer to making that payment.
correct.
Okay.
Plus, again, that surplus you'll build up in 26, 27, 28.
It looked like there was an upside-down balance there, but when you add these others in, it's a lot closer. So
Yep.
thank you. Okay.
Absolutely.
And when you do these, and like typically, I mean, as time progresses, typically a lot of the assessed value will go up, won't it?
Correct. I think especially in a community like yours where you are seeing a lot of growth and increase in values, I think we would expect that this is probably a very conservative estimate.
Right, and then, so with that, we're doing this yearly, because that's what we're obligated to do, so we could come back and probably even see an increase for next year.
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent.
And if we keep the assessed value high, the taxes should stay low, right?
Correct, yeah. The more assessed value you're adding to your tax base, the more that helps push down tax rates for your residents. And as I mentioned there, in EDA 1, while you do have that expiration, in the next few years, adding $46 million from the TIF area to the tax base, that's $46 million of property tax obligation that's not picked up by the other residents. So not 46 million of tax payments, but 46 million of assessed value that your other residents are not having to pick up. So
AV good.
AV good, exactly. AV up, tax rates down. So
Yes, we like that.
Tax increases, man.
I mean, I don't mean to dumb it down, but, I mean, we say it all the time because it comes up every year, but AV good,
Yes.
AV down bad.
absolutely.
Other questions or comments then?
Yeah, I'd like to make one more comment. I want to thank Beth for having you come out here and do this. So you're trying to let the public know what's going on too. So if they're not here, they can watch our presentation here on tape, and that hopefully helps them understand what we're doing or what you're doing.
Yep.
So I appreciate that and appreciate what Beth did, having you come out here.
And I would second that too. Definitely thanks to Beth in your office and Billy in your office and, compiling a lot of the documentation, especially stuff that predated our involvement with the town in pulling this together. So,
Thanks.
yep.
And then Beth, don't they have that in the state where you can actually go online? You can really see a lot of these numbers, right?
Well, Gateway is likely what you're referring to, so
Yes.
that's just a public site in regards to all of the town's finances.
Throughout the state, everybody in the
Yeah,
state
well,
does it.
not just the town of St. John, but all municipalities throughout the state of Indiana. It's a great resource for people who want to take a look at our financial standings.
Very good.
2025 is due by March 1st, so check back with us on March 1st, and you can check out our 2025 standings. We are close. We are really close.
And then right behind that requirement is the April 15th report. So that's kind of the look back report for redevelopment commissions. So that will take a look at all your activity in 2025. This report is really designed to be more forward-looking.
The TIF management report?
Correct,
Yeah.
yep. So kind of right behind the annual financial report will be the TIF management report as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will conclude the presentation by Baker Tilly. Thank you. Moving on to item 5, of minutes for January 28th, 2026 Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 6, financial matters of the corporation. Accounts payable voucher dated February 24th, 2026, representing payment for payroll, supplies, services, and equipment rendered to the town of St. John, in a combined total of $286,700. Billy, did you want to comment on this, maybe, or?
Actually,
Beth?
Jerry, you know what, when you brought up the bond payments, this is one of them, the 2018 bond payments. A big portion of, I think, the Target tax appeal
Yes.
in TIF 1 has been a big part of why we weren't, I would likely say in 2018, it wasn't expected that that was going to hit the
Right.
town.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now that, once you brought that up and I looked here, that to me would answer a question as far as why it's tighter
Why we're
than we
looking-
would
Why
have.
we look upside down.
Yeah, it definitely looks tighter than we had anticipated
That makes
earlier
sense.
on
All right,
when those
thank you.
bonds were
Upside down.
issued. Not upside down.
No.
We're not upside down.
We are
It's
not.
just
Okay,
a
no.
little bit closer than we had anticipated
Right.
likely in 2018,
Thank
when
you.
those bonds were originally issued.
All right, thank you for that, Beth. That's good insight. Do I have a motion to pay the $286,700?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Reports and correspondences. Any reports, any correspondence? Item 8, motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.